Hey, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Curtis and today's interview with Mickey McMullen and Courtney Jones. Mickey and Courtney were both crew members on Phantasmagoria 2 back when we filmed it and made it happen. They were there every single day throughout the entire 5 to 6 month shoot. And Daniel tracked them down recently, and we sat down and had a great conversation. Mickey was the sound mixer and the boom operator on that game, and Courtney was a key grip. They have both gone on to have wonderful careers. Courtney has worked on various projects such as national commercials, music videos, feature films, and television series. And Mickey is now an Emmy Award-winning sound mixer for the TV show The Amazing Race. These two formed a very deep friendship on the making of that game, which has gone on to today, and you can tell just how palpable that friendship is when you see them talk. We had a great time. It was really neat to hear their memories of making the game, what their experiences were, and just getting to know them a little bit. So I hope you enjoy Daniel's and my interview with Mickey McMullen and Courtney Jones. Courtney Jones and Mickey McMullen, thank you so much, and welcome to Conversations with Curtis. It's good to see you guys after a couple weeks, right? Couple months.
It's only been a month or two since we finished wrap.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's it whatever it was, it went quickly.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens. It's like, I feel like time just gets put into pockets in your brain. And, I'm seeing you guys now for the first time in almost 30 years. And I'm immediately like, I just have flashes of all of the work you guys were doing to set up shots. And Mickey, you and I remember we spent a lot of time just because we were in the same room and you were recording so much for so long.
Yeah.
So
we did spend a lot of time together.
And you haven't gotten a haircut since. That's nice.
Actually, that's funny because I actually have had my head shaved for a long time, and I just got bored and
grew it back out.
Had decided. My wife's like, "Hey, you should see if you can grow your hair out again." I'm like, oh, okay. So 3 years later, here we are. I'm just like, I'm lazy.
That's
again,
great.
So.
That's great.
And meanwhile, I keep losing hair, so I can't seem to keep it.
Photo was
whatever.
amazing.
It seems like the FMV fountain of youth doesn't work on everybody the same.
Right. Yeah, Mickey and Paul got it good. So
yeah,
I'm a gamer, so this is exciting. I'm glad. I actually played the game. I have an original copy. When it first came out, I got the game and played it, and then what's funny is I after we talked, or I got the email from you guys about maybe doing this. I went in and looked back on you, Paul, playing for the first time. And the audio issues and everything. Oh my God, it was awesome. I had a great time watching it.
The audio issues. We're going to talk about the audio issues, Mickey.
Well, what were
there's plenty in that game, I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, we'll get into all of that. I mean, we've been playing so many games lately. Was the audio issues just me having issues with OBS? It
was about 20, 30 minutes of you trying to figure out how to get the sound of the game into your recording. It was awesome. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
I mean, it was an honest situation. It was just you were just honest, be like, hey, I don't know what's happening here. I can't.
Well, that was the thing that's been such a bizarre and fun experience. It's fun and frustrating, but just learning how to, you say, okay, I want to stream. Everybody's doing that. That sounds great. And then you go, oh, okay, how do I do that? OBS, what the hell is that? And then now you have to learn a whole system to do the thing. And then you have to find, luckily Scum VM has created a way for you to play the game online. But yeah, it's just a rabbit hole that
but
never
I
stops.
don't think he's talking about the audio issues you had with OBS. He's talking about the audio issues with Phantasmagoria 2, in which you can't actually change the music and the sound so that it will be well balanced. We'll talk about
actually
that.
Both. Yeah, you're correct. It's actually both. But hey, welcome to our tech world. Now you get a feel of but now it's even more advanced for stuff that I'm recording on location. Now it's insane.
Oh so yeah, and I've done.
It's a blast, but I still love doing it.
This is almost overwhelming seeing you guys. I've got these photos and I'm sure you've seen them, but maybe we can share a couple things. This is more podcast than it is, but it's also going to be on our YouTube channel, so we'll make sure that that's available. But I would love to just I remember both of you and I remember, this was a 6-month shoot, right? We were there from the beginning, and it was supposed to be 3 months. It ended up being a heck of a lot longer than that.
Right.
I have very specific memories, but it's been a long time. And most of the people that I talked to, except for Andy, were like the actors, and they were only there for pockets of time. So to be able to talk to a couple people that were there, that went through the trenches all the way through, I'm excited to hear your memories. But before that, I'd love to have you tell me how you got the gig. What was it that led up to you both getting hired on Phantas 2? Do
you want me to go first?
Oh. Yeah, you go ahead, Mickey, because I need to try to remember.
I was still kind of in school, just getting out of school. I was going to the Art Institute actually in Seattle. I've been in the music business and went back to school to learn what all the buttons did for recording. So I got an internship at a place called Clatter and Din at Park Place Market there. And
I used to do voiceover.
There was an audio person in there. I'm not sure if this should be. It was supposed to be hush hush at the time. Named Randy Yaunt, who knew I was into production work and wanted to get into that world. And he's like, "Hey, I have a friend who's producing a shoot. Would you be interested in checking it out or interviewing with it?" And of course I said, sure. And then found out what it was. Like, wow, I have maybe a short film and a feature film under my belt, but I have no experience for this. But so I called a friend and we went in and interviewed, and they liked us and they hired us. So that's kind of how I got in through Randy Yaunt.
And you had no prior experience with Sierra Online. Did you know anything about what they were doing, or what the FMV gaming world was at the time?
Not at the time. I've always been a gamer, but I didn't really, not at that time. I can't remember. I think later on I worked on the X-Files game, and then but before that was the first one, and I was pretty green. I was really green on that. So it's kind of just honing the craft, learning what everything did. And then I called in a friend at the time with a more experienced mixer that had more skill. And I actually boomed for him on a previous feature before this. And so together we decided we're going to co-mix it, co-boom it, just do, location sound for it. So that's how I got into it.
And was that, so I remember you being the boom guy the whole time. Was there someone else? Were you taking turns with that, or was that?
Yeah, there's another sound mixer that came on for a brief time named Tony Tarango. It was my friend at the time, where he was the more experienced mixer. And then my friend Mark came in after Tony had to leave, and we kind of scrambled around. I was talking to the producer, like, don't worry about it. We got it covered. Got all the gear we needed, and then called my friend Mark up, and he came out and he went to school with me, and we figured it out and just made it happen.
Man. So it really was, I think, for a lot of us, because that crew was such a young, that was such a young group of folks. And I think it was pretty much everybody's a lot of people's very first gig, a professional gig, including mine in terms of acting on something.
I knew we were a crew,
scale,
but it also felt like, I know we were a crew, but it felt like we were a family. Like being so long and so many hours a day, 5-6 days a week for 6 months. It was like, wow. We all became friends and stayed friends for a long, Courtney and I have been hanging out forever.
That's what we saw. So Daniel, when he found you guys, he shared with me. He goes, "Now, do you recognize these two?" And I'm like, yes. But then it was great to hear you talk about that. Phantas 2 was sort of that was the thing that got your friendship started.
Yeah. While you're talking about it, let me give you. Can I give you a bit of a background of how all this thing came to be? Sure. This meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Paul, Tori, and I started live streaming the 1998 FMV game X-Files that you mentioned, Mickey. Mm-hmm. And what I sometimes do in these live streams is I share interesting trivia tidbits about the people who worked on the games. And while I was researching who worked on the X-Files game, I noticed that 2 crew members worked both on X-Files the game and on Phantasmagoria 2. And these crew members are Sandra Hunter and you.
Yeah.
And then I looked into your IMDb page, and I noticed that you also worked on the 2009 movie Crimes of the Past, which
That's
stars
right.
Paul.
That doesn't star me. I have like one scene in it.
You're
Paul
the
and I
star,
worked together.
Paul.
But Seattle's kind of incestuous that way. Like you would go
Yeah.
from shoot to shoot to shoot, see actors and crew
sure.
the same, and
Yeah.
it was awesome back in the day.
Anyway, I kept looking and I found an interview with you on the Mobile Creator Podcast in which Courtney interviews you.
That's
And
right.
the interview starts with Courtney saying that he knows you for more than 20 years. And you reply, a little thing called Phantasmagoria 2.
Yeah.
So my mind was blown. And so I reached out to both of you, and here we are.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Here we are.
So Courtney, tell us how you found your way to Phantaz 2.
Yeah.
That you
So
recall, whatever you recall.
What I recall is working with with the fellas on a music video. We were put together, I think, by a mutual friend, Angela Northington, and I was a key grip at the time. So that's kind of how I got wrapped up in the whole crew. And they were like, "Hey, we're going up to Seattle to do this project. You want to come?" It's like, sure, what the hell? What else do I have to do? And so, yeah, my
Where were you at the time?
A little bit more simple. LA. Yeah, I'm originally from LA. So,
You were in LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where Matt Jensen and Alex Bono and Chris Klonecki, all those guys we were all from LA. And like I said, I think I'd worked on a music video or something that either Alex or Jensen was shooting or something. And yeah. So that's how I got wrapped up.
So Courtney did working up, because you live in Bainbridge now, is that right? Is that what
I do?
Yeah.
I've been here
Small world, because that's
10
where I'm
years
from.
now. Well, actually, Mickey, you're the reason why I'm here. That the whole Phantasmagoria project was the reason why I'm back up here. Because when we were shooting, you remember we would come over to the island every once in a while, to hang out and, barbecue, do whatever, just hang out.
Barbecue.
And from the moment I got on the ferry and landed in Eagle Harbor, which is where the ferry docks, I fell in love with the island, and I was like, I don't know how, why, or when, but I will be back. And so 10 years ago, we my wife and son, we moved up here, and it was the best move.
Wow,
best
you
move
did
ever.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Courtney, you worked with most of that LA crew, because what I recall, and this is my selective memory, is that, was it Matthew Thornton, right? He was the guy, he was the producer, and he was an interesting guy. And I remember, I'm sure we all had, in fact, you guys have a lot more insider knowledge, and I want to hear as much as I can from you guys, because I reached out to Matt Jensen at one point, and he was kind enough to get back to me. And this was early when I first started doing this. And he said, "Yeah, I don't think I'm up for talking about it." He had mentioned there was a lawsuit. I said, "I don't care. I don't have affiliation with anything. I'd like to hear all the dirt." But he was pretty busy and
that's news
so I'd love
to me.
chat with him at some point. But oh, really? Okay. Was that news to you too, Mickey? You knew about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was involved in it.
Well,
Tell us about it.
well,
Oh,
let's,
man.
before we get to that,
I don't know.
and you can,
Wait, I think it's still sealed up, isn't it? Isn't it still sealed? You can't talk about the documents? I don't know how it works.
I don't know, and I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position, but what I recall was, when they decided to do this, they were making some changes from previous FMV games, which were all blue screen, and so this was the first game that was fully on set locations. So we were really filming it like a movie, and that they hired these really talented, sort of fresh out of USC film school, Matt and those guys. And my understanding is it was really their first real professional gig. I imagine they had done some music videos and stuff. Is that right? Were they out of USC at the time, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, they graduated out of USC. I mean, but several of them had worked on projects, but not necessarily as heads of department. But they were like, I think Alex had worked on that movie Twister and in the camera department, and like several of them had done projects, but not as like the leads. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I just remember them coming up, and my memory was, I know that we went horribly over budget by the end, and it was it became like a skeleton crew, and we were just trying to get as many shots in as we can because we were behind, and they were trying to shut us down. But I do remember that at the beginning, and if you watch any of the footage from the game, it's some of the most beautiful cinematography, and the lighting and everything is just stunning. And I think that to a certain degree, these were kids in a candy store that had all this time, but ultimately they may have gobbled up too much time early on, and that we suffered from that at the end. Does that ring true to you at all?
Yeah, to me, I mean, I wasn't around, I think, for the last week or two for me, but.
Yeah.
What about you, Courtney? Do you remember?
I remember. I remember us going over, but the thing is that like I knew that those guys were really talented because I had worked with them, on a music video, and they were shooting music videos and editing them in their apartments and things like that, right? Wow. And so I had seen their work, and obviously they clearly went on to do great things, especially, Jensen and Bono and, and Mickey, and have gone on to do amazing projects. But you were right that they were some of the most talented, people around. But yeah, it's funny because I was talking to Mickey about this, before, like a few days ago, and I don't remember certain specifics about the production. I remember a lot of like the feeling of what was going on around, because it was probably some of the most formative, like one of the most formative periods in my life. Actually, that whole experience of coming up here, working with you guys, and like literally the day that. Because I flew up, maybe we all flew up, but the day we landed, it started like the heaviest snowfall in 10 years or something, and that was a big thing for me, coming from LA, like where it never snowed. You go to the snow, it's already on the ground, but seeing the snow, and we got off the plane and went to Andy's house, and had dinner and all of that, and just he had this huge skylight. Right, I remember that. Remember he had this huge skylight, I think, over his like dining room or something, and just seeing the snowfall and the huge trees and stuff. And it was the feeling. It kicked off in such an amazing way from the time we got off the plane. And then, meeting the crew and the cast and all of that. And everybody was just, to me, everybody was just really cool. And I loved hanging out with everybody. So.
Yeah. So what, it's great to hear this. So what are there some, we all have those certain memories that are just emblazoned in our brains. What are some moments from the shoot or from, just from that time that you guys have talked about in the past that you remember? I'm just curious what comes to mind when you think about that experience.
I have one that I always think is funny, is that, I mean, there are a couple of probably, but this one, for some reason, this one stands out to me. Sometimes when you're on a shoot out on location, in a neighborhood in particular, like we were shooting in Queen Anne, at the house in Queen Anne. And, a lot of times in LA, when you want people to just kind of keep moving on you and they start asking about, oh, what are you guys shooting? It may be kind of a dick move, but we go, oh, we're shooting a a mayonnaise commercial, because nobody wants to know about a mayonnaise commercial, right?
You want to keep it simple, get them out of the way, right?
Yeah, you want to keep it simple and just keep them moving. And I did that. I said, somebody came up, it was a couple, they were walking their dog or whatever, and hey, what are you guys shooting? Oh, mayonnaise commercial. And they're like, what brand?
You're already caught.
So, I was already caught.
Yeah.
So that's
great.
like one of the funny memories for me was that. But Mickey is kind of the keeper of all the memories. So Mickey, I'm going to let you take it away.
No, not at all. I think one of the ones that reminds me, just walking into work and seeing Tony Hoskins on the pinball machine, where he got his nickname, Pinball. We would play endless amount of games of pinball in the.
Do you remember the game?
Do you remember that?
Do you remember what the? Oh yeah. Do you remember what the game was?
I'm drawing a blank. What was it?
Addams Family.
Oh, that's it. Okay, I couldn't remember.
You were on that. We put, didn't we?
Oh my God.
Think we put over $1,000 into that machine.
Until we realized that it was open and you could just pull out the quarters and put it back in.
The extra budget.
Oh my God, are you kidding? And another,
but I think
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Mickey, I remember you being on that game quite a bit too. Because anytime there was a break, because I was always waiting around for you guys to finish up setting up the shot. So I'm in there playing and goofing around. But then whenever there was a break, you would walk right out and go straight to the pinball machine and get a couple of games there.
Because otherwise I'd never get on the machine. Yeah, we nicknamed Tony Hoskins Pinball. He gets a little upset about that now since he's like a CEO of a company, but it's funny.
Okay,
I
want you guys to. This is a perfect time. I want you guys to. I want you guys to talk me through. Let me see if I can do this right. I want you to tell me who the people are. Oh no, how do I? Hey Daniel, can you show the group shot of all? I don't think Mickey's in this one. Well, in fact, I think I can do it because I have a couple of parts to show. Hold on.
That's hurtful.
I know, but you're in some other ones. You're in some other ones though. So give it a. Let's see. Here we go.
Well, I saw one crew photo that Courtney sent me, forwarded it from you guys.
Yeah, the thing is, I know the credits of Phantasmagoria 2 by heart. So when I saw Mickey's name, then I knew to look him up to see that if he worked on X-Files. But I didn't see Courtney in the credits. But after I watched the podcast, I started looking for your name and I couldn't find it. But then I scrolled down to the special thanks section and I saw you there. And do you know how they named you?
Oh.
What?
They named you Courtney Butt Meat Man Jones.
Butt meat. That's what you kept saying when you're hitting yourself in the head with a hammer. Butt meat sandwiches. Butt meat pizza.
You just lost them.
I couldn't remember what you were saying. Oh my God. I showed I was watching the video and I came upon a clip of the asylum scene. So a lot of crews.
It's what you said, and it's listed in the credits.
I'm Courtney Butt Meat Jones.
That's all you kept saying.
Not in all the credits.
You hit yourself in the insane asylum.
I think
that's where we did a lot of the crew were in that insane asylum video, part of the game, and Courtney was just hitting himself in the head with a hammer, saying butt meat sandwiches, butt meat salad. That's when Ted's picking through the lice in the lady's hair and screaming stuff. And Ted was like he was like, what? You're like your best boy grip, I think was kind of his title or ish.
Oh, that's great.
We ended up calling him Teddy Bear, or my wife did anyway.
Yeah. Do you? So Daniel, I can't do it. You have to put it up. It's all it's all under the Hoyos photos that on the drive.
Well, that's another memory with Andy Hoyos and Tony Hoskins because they were side by side with video playback and video, and Andy was at the table there where we were running the audio from and stuff. And oh my God, those two would just go at it. I'd be crying listening to, because Andy would just sit there and all of a sudden he'd pass gas or something and not say anything. And Tony would like look over at him like, are you kidding me? And Andy's like, he'd like get shy, like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, he just farted. They'd have this conversation. He's like, no, I didn't fart. It was trapped there. He goes, hang on. his big thing was like, let me draw a diagram. And so then he would draw a diagram of this whole thing. And the conversations these guys would have were legendary. I just wish we could have recorded those things. They were just so funny.
Oh, that's
you guys
great.
see my screen?
I see a monster.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that monster forever.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh, there's Andy and
This is Andy.
The Kick of Death. Do you remember that,
son.
Courtney?
The Kick of Death. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
what was the Kick of Death?
Oh my God. It's Andy Hoyos' Kick of Death, where he set it up like Bruce Lee, like he's doing the twist of the foot, and then he just like jerk his body forward like 6 inches. But the whole setup.
He was.
Oh my God.
I got it. That guy was the perfect leader for that project. You know, in my opinion, for him to, I know that it was stressful, and I know that what he went through was a lot. But he was such a dad for all of us. He just had such a
he was a dad, but he was also, even though he was probably twice our age, he was half our age. He was like such a kid. On that.
Oh, totally. I don't mean dad in the way that he was a disciplinarian or anything, but he just was he was the perfect leader because he was easygoing. Yeah. He was was open to suggestions. I remember that Andy would start every sentence with "in other words." He would go, he'd say, "So what do you think I should do?" And he would sit there for a second. He would go, "In other words," and I go, "But Andy, you haven't said words yet. You can't say 'in other words' first." But it's in his head, he's saying all these things, and so he decides to.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's amazing. Yeah. Can
we find that? Oh, there he is.
Oh, see, now that's a memory for me, because I remember him fighting that he wanted his bottom half of his scrubs, that he wanted the brown stain in front and the yellow stain in back.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So if you look at it, I think he went, it's like they can't do that, and then he went and changed and pulled him around. And, oh my God, it's hilarious.
Who's that?
Do you guys keep in touch with Matt at all? Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I talked to him. I talked to him last year. Yeah.
Oh man, I'd love to get him on here. I really would love to chat with him about his memories of this, because I felt like Matt in many ways. That's Ted. Now, what's he doing these days?
I haven't talked. Courtney's really much the only one I've talked to long since then.
Yeah, but, so Ted worked with me for years as a grip on my crew for years.
Oh, nice.
But then we lost touch after a while. But yeah.
Yeah, I worked with the guys on several projects, feature films down in LA and stuff. I went down for Alex and Brian. I worked with a lot too.
Well, I remember with Matt Jensen that because Andy had never directed before, he didn't really have a clear understanding of how to, at least with actors, he didn't have a common,
the hand
communication to, all the KY jelly you guys use in this game. Good guy.
Oh my God.
Oh, here's some guys. Yeah. Who are these folks? That's Matt, of course. Yeah. And then who are
that's Alex and Brian, right?
So Brian is to Matt's right. Matt's sitting down. Brian's to the right. That's Alex Bueno to his right. And
Alex was lighting, right? Was Alex all about lighting?
Yeah, he was.
Alex
the gaffer,
was the gaffer. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, and he's very successul too. Was he someone who works
Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
DP on. Does all their
Is he really
out of studio stuff.
He was, yeah. He was.
He's amazing.
He was
Yeah,
he's amazing. I think he's got his own production company or something now. So,
wow, very cool. We have to track him down too.
I'm not sure who that is.
Worked on a few features with Brian.
Who's that with the slate?
I'm not positive with that, actually.
Okay. All right.
Alex's hand's kind of in front.
See, I don't remember that at all. That's a moment that I truly don't remember.
That's crazy.
I don't remember that either.
Blue screen.
That was This is all stuff near the end.
So a lot of the blue screen stuff, when it shows stuff like that, was MOS days where I wasn't in, but I'd come in to hang out and just watch.
Let's find the big group stuff.
Which photo are you looking for?
Yeah, keep going. There's keep going. It was, yeah, you keep going. It's going to be coming up.
I vaguely remember that.
Oh, this is.
I remember that.
Yeah, I think we're getting there.
There's a group photo.
There it is.
There we go.
There it is. So
I'm next to Courtney.
Photo. So there you are. Okay, there you are, Mick. I didn't see. Yeah. Okay, good. So Mickey,
below us,
purple sweater dudes.
Yeah, that's funny.
Tony.
So below, like right below Mickey and myself,
Chris.
that's Tony Hoskins. Chris Klonke.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Tony.
Is next to him. And then Alex and Jensen are in the middle.
Yep. Lorelei top of Jensen.
Yep. And then Ted to Lorelei's left.
In the back row, it's Ted and then John.
The guy right next to Ted, I remember him. He was there both those guys. All three of those guys, yeah.
Yeah. John and
John's
then Chris Mann. He was
Chris Mann, that's
electric or a swing. Yeah. And
okay. And then Brian Baugh's next to Chris Mann.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who's next to Andy?
Which side?
Who's the woman next to
left or right?
Left. His left.
His left.
The woman or the?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank.
And the producer named Tammy, right?
I'm drawing a blank.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. So every the LA crew was me, Chris Klonke, Alex Bono, Matt Jensen, Brian Baugh, Chris Mann, John Bradley, and Ted. Oh no, Ted was Ted from here. Was Ted from here?
Ted was from Seattle. Yeah. Ted was from
Ted was from Seattle. Yeah,
Seattle.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Ted and Tony Hoskins and Brian Baugh. I think originally is from up there, and Tony to my left is Tony, the other sound mixer. So this has got to be early on. This must be when we first started because Tony had to leave early on.
Do you guys remember? There was a moment we had been filming for, I don't know, maybe a month, maybe a little more, and I think we were getting pretty, there was long days, pretty burned out, and then at one point Andy brought us into, I don't know what room it was over at Sierra, and Wes Plate had cut together a minute and a half little sizzle reel of the stuff that we had done, which is still something you could find online right now. I don't think it was meant for the public. It was really just a way to kind of show us what we've been working on. And that was the moment I thought, oh, okay, we're doing something kind of interesting here. I didn't get a real sense of it until I had seen that little reel. Do you guys remember anything about that time?
I sort of do remember the reel. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that just being like a moment where we all kind of went, okay,
kind of like this
all right,
yeah, it was kind of they showed it in the break room or something like that. And then, I do remember that.
Yeah, it's vaguely remembered. It was,
You want me to show it?
Mm-hmm.
You guys.
I haven't seen it since then, and I would love to see it. But I mean, we don't have to do it right now, but I would love to see that.
All right, yeah. So,
so let me share the trailer, and
there we go.
Yep, there it is.
Using my phones, I was like, oh my god. Oh, I totally remember this.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember we went into some room in Sierra Online, and they just played this for us. And
it's like Jan Hammer did the soundtrack.
Yeah. An edit every second, 0.5 seconds. you guys remember filming some of those death scenes?
Oh yeah.
Those.
Yeah. It's all coming back.
Courtney, you liar.
That was a pretty incredible set that they created, you know?
Yeah, we shot everything in that one giant, whatever that place was, warehouse. They built all the sets in there. Everything was shot there. There wasn't on location.
No, we did. At the end of this shoot, we did like 3 or 4 locations.
Oh yeah,
we went to that
I meant
hospital.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I remember them sharing that with us and just.
I remember that.
I think I remember watching one of your. Oh, go ahead.
Coming back to you.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that the insane asylum set when they cleared all the bedrooms out and everything. We made one giant room towards the end there. There's a lot of Easter eggs in that. You talked about Easter eggs, and I remember watching. You were asking if that actually one of the videos I watched. You were asking. You thought that was on location. We shot somewhere, but the big room was actually in that warehouse we shot. We cleared all the bedrooms out, made it one giant room.
Okay,
and then
that makes sense.
What's really funny is I don't know if you can see it with the resolution, but there is a lot of stuff written on the walls and on the pillars that sometimes they had to go through and scratch it out because we pushed the limit on how much we could actually write on there. Oh my God!
In the mental asylum?
Yes, the mental asylum.
Yeah. Well, we have an HD video that Westplate gave us, and it does say a lot of things on the walls that we didn't see before. It says person and all types of stuff.
We just went through, and when nobody's looking, somebody walked through with a Sharpie and just start writing on the walls and like leave it. So there's, oh my God, that's funny.
That's hilarious.
We had fun.
I remember we got to that hospital and we were supposed to have like a chase scene or something, and then they shut us down. They said they basically we were supposed to have like a whole weekend there, and then they basically said you get like this one day and that's it. That's where we shot the opening scene where on the gurney and stuff, you know. But
that was fun.
Yeah.
I remembered there was a club called the Weathered Wall. For some reason, I remember that.
I think it's called the Weathered Wall. Is that what we shot?
S&M Club?
That was the Weathered Wall.
Weathered Wall, yeah.
That's right.
I worked on so many movies that shot there. It's crazy.
Oh, that's funny. I wonder if it's
it shut down, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Closed.
I don't think it's anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure it's...
there was a lot of features shot in Seattle at that club.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that was great. I remember, Mickey, that as an actor with very little experience on film sets, I'd done mostly theater prior to that, almost exclusively. And Andy was not, he did his best, but he didn't always know how to communicate in a way that would help. And what I found was, I remember that both you and Matt were incredibly helpful to me because you both were, because I wasn't aware of how sound worked. I wasn't aware of, like Matt would basically always tell me, hey, the camera's going to catch just this part right here, or it's going to be a full body shot or whatever. And so it really was, I would look to you guys quite a bit as we would get everything set up to kind of know to what degree and where I could take it. And I remember, there are times that we would have to, for sound, like how loud is it going to get? Is it going to be an intense moment? Is it going to be a really quiet moment? And being able to sort of work that way with you was super helpful. I mean, so again, this was a class for me to take in terms of learning the ins and outs. And I remember there were moments where we had to get to pretty intense emotional places. And I wasn't always, it would be weird because you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And then they say, come on, and you get out there and then they want you to just hit it right away. And that was tough for me to kind of figure out how to be in the position emotionally when you were ready, and so that was tough. That was an interesting time.
Yeah, I remember having conversations with you about, we're at a loud club and the music blaring and everybody's talking really quiet and subdued. So it's called sound perspective. So how is that sound supposed to sound during that scene with the background that you don't hear supposed to be? So it's a kind of an ongoing thing to try and get you in that space. Like, hey, this is blasting music stuff. You got to be a little louder. You got to talk a little, or subdue it a little bit. You're not just kind of to keep that even way from scene to scene so it doesn't jump. Like you're not jumping, you're keeping that sound perspective, which is.
And I remember that you had to get into all kinds of, bizarre, I mean, I can't imagine I hope you have like a regular chiropractor, because back in the day you had to get into all these positions to sort of get everything and, climb around and duck underneath and do whatever you could to get the boom in the right spot.
It's a dance, and it's always been a dance. It's always a dance. So it's whatever it takes. Luckily we had sets built, so we could just take ladders over the top and boom the hallways or boom wherever. And it's just a matter of keeping that mic out of the shadows, which I'm not sure we did all the time, but sometimes you can see a little something.
Yeah, when Wes sent us, Wes had held on to about 25 minutes of uncropped footage that he used for his own, reel. And he shared that with us, and it's on our website if you ever want to check it out. There's a number of stuff there. But in those videos, you get to see the boom mic, because it was, it hadn't been cropped yet. They knew that was going to be in it. But it was kind of cool seeing the behind the scenes stuff. And we all, do you guys remember, so we've talked a lot about this, the scene where Therese breaks into his apartment and then they have the S&M bondage scene and she raises him up on, he's wearing the leather bondage. And do you remember we had to like bring in a crane to sort of lift me up behind it was like, everybody jokes around about like, how did she get into his house, put bolts, and studs in the walls, hang all the chains, and then be able to lift him up through all this thing. And just the absurdity of that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any memory of that moment?
I do remember that. Yeah. I do sort of remember, rigging that, and
that was Courtney.
What's funny is, trying to do something like that now, I wouldn't have done it, the same way, because I'm not sure 100% that was safe the way we did it, but I mean, it worked, and you lived, but it was kind of going back to your point, Paul, is it was a master class, but it was also a baptism by fire. It was safe. I mean, we had your back, that for sure. But, but it was a baptism by fire for a lot of us. And we were all just trying to figure a lot of it out, because some of the stuff had never necessarily been done, in particular for games, so we were all just kind of trying to figure it out. And we did, and it was good. And when I look at FMV, like gaming blogs and vlogs and things like that, and now that I'm setting up a gaming company and kind of wanting to produce FMVs, sort of full circle, all these years later, just thinking about thinking about the technology then as opposed to now, thinking about just kind of workflow for all this kind of stuff. It's all been done. It's all been done now. But when we were doing it back then, it was all fresh and new, and that was again. It was some of the most formative years in my life, in my career.
Yeah, and nowadays it does seem like there's a bit of a, certainly in the UK, there's been a huge renaissance for FMV games. I mean, I think that they're, as I'm starting to get to know this world, they're not quite as immersive as what the original games did. They don't let you be in that world and click all the different things. It's a little bit more choose your own adventure. But I do think that we, more than ever, have the technology to very efficiently create that kind of game again. And it's surprising to me that no one hasn't gone back to that kind of, if the ones that we've played, Daniel, like not for broadcast or. Yeah, I mean, is there any game out there right now that feels as close to like some of those older ones?
No, not quite. I mean, I have some friends. Speaking of the folks in the UK, producing. I'm friends with some of those people who are writing and producing those games, like some of the more popular ones lately. But no, it's I think partially because we're dealing with a little bit different technology now, right? I mean, before it was CD-ROMs and maybe it was a little more complicated. So I guess back then you just felt like you had to do all of that. You had to, give somebody that experience. And I don't know. I don't know why people don't do more of that, but there are some games that I'm trying to develop that are a little bit more like what we did back then. But yeah, you're right. It is a lot more choose your own adventure, style right now. But they're
Daniel
great.
Being
they're great stories.
Sort of, yeah, and Daniel being the historian that you are, what is the closest modern FMV game that sort of matches the depth of what some of those earlier ones did?
So that's the thing. Games nowadays, especially FMV games, actually feel like visual novels with speed bumps. You see the story, then you have two options, then you choose one option. And very similar to what Netflix did with Black Mirror in the interactive episode. So most FMV games are like that. And I'm trying to figure out if it's out of any types of limitations that they want to make it more compatible with touch devices, and so an adventure game may not be suitable for such a format, or maybe it's because it's cheaper. With games like Phantasmagoria 2, you had a budget of $4.5 million, and you had to film tons of scenes. Yeah, it cost $4.5 million.
Yeah, 1996.
Where'd that go? Who got that?
Wow.
And thus the lawsuit.
Wait, there's money? They had money?
Wow.
Oh, man.
They did. And I think they went, and my understanding, again, I don't know if this is true, but I remember hearing along the way that was the original budget, but I think they went quite a bit over that. That was my understanding. Wow. They lost a lot of money on this. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking US dollars, not Canadian dollars.
Yeah, and US dollars in 1996. Yeah. Yeah, and actors.
So anyways, we just talked to a couple who works at an FMV company, and they were able to produce an entire FMV game for £5,000. So nowadays, it's very...
But it's the kind you're talking about, Daniel. It's more was more the point. That was more the choose one of your two options. So I don't think they were quite getting to the level that we're talking
I know.
about.
So that's what I'm saying. That games nowadays, probably due to budget restrictions or whatever, choose to be visual novels
and I do
with
imagine
speed bumps.
I do imagine that the development team for an FMV is a whole lot smaller than it is for some other game, because it is easier to do choose this, choose that, go left, go right, to develop that for a single person to do it. I'm doing it myself, and I don't know how to code, right? So I have the technology to be able to do that. But if I were to try to do what we did on Phantas, I wouldn't be able to do it, because the development process is a lot different. I mean, there are more bells and whistles that you need to know how to code. And Sierra Online was a big company from what I remember.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they were. Yeah. Yeah. And I know.
So I created a fan sequel to Phantasmagoria 2. We called it Phantasmagoria 2.1. Or now it changed its name to Phantasmagoria because it's a fan sequel. And so I recreated the engine in order to recreate the same gameplay. And it's pretty easy nowadays. Because
you should check it out, you guys. What he does is so incredible. And he basically took the whole world of that Phantasmagoria. He has all the scenes. And then he's able, we were able to kind of recut some of the earlier footage and then have me as Paul interact with Curtis and to add new people to this. So it's really fun. And it's sort of just
awesome.
It's a big commercial for our channel, but it's really neat. And Daniel's just done an incredible job with it. So yeah, we'll send you the link so you can check it out.
Definitely.
Or actually it's just our website, conversationswithcurtis.com. Yeah.
So anyway, with that, it's pretty easy to recreate it nowadays because it's basically a video player that activates every time you click on a certain hotspot on the screen.
Oh.
So even with today's technology, creating Phantasmagoria 2 is pretty easy. So creating the FMV games that are released today is a no-brainer because you actually only need a video player and 2 buttons.
I wonder,
one
is it
dialogue option or the second?
Do you think that people's appetite for this type of thing has changed then? Do you think that
I
could
think
be what it is?
people have less patience than they did in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
People, you can see it that in the games themselves. Games today are much easier than they were back in the 90s because every time someone, in the 90s we had one game for the entire summer, or because games were expensive and computers were expensive. So you had one game for the entire summer, and they always tried to give you 40 hours of gameplay. And so you play with the game. You play the game, basically, and if you get stuck, then you still keep playing. But nowadays, if you get stuck in a game, you either open a walkthrough and then complete the game without even trying, just reading the walkthrough, because once you're there, you're already doing the entire thing, or you just skip to one of the thousands of other games you have in your Steam library.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. This is interesting.
So, hey, Mickey, before Daniel takes you to task on some of the sound mixing of Phantasmagoria 2, I want to say that when I watch it, and having played, we've played a number. We just played X-Files, which you worked on, and we played Phantas 1 and a couple other the Gabriel Knight 2. So we've played a number of FMV games, but I find that the actual sound of the dialogue in Phantas 2 is really crisp. I mean, it really comes across incredibly. Numerous times when we've watched moments of it, I just thought, wow, that sounds like nowadays we have these really great microphones that we're able to use to sort of help our home system. But I just find that to be, I want to give you some props because I felt like it sounds way better than the other ones that I was watching. So, okay, Daniel, now you got to talk to him. What do you got?
Okay.
Oh boy.
The voice was crisp. What was the deal with the music?
That's not me. So,
no, the problem is not the music. The problem, I need to know if there are certain scenes in the game in which the music can be really overbearing.
Probably.
You can barely hear the dialogue, and you only hear the music. And since I don't know if it was part of the sound mixing or part of the game development
I'm going to say
process.
I think it has something to do with the process. I know there may have been one or two sections that we recorded onto camera. So we recorded the audio into the camera. We didn't actually, I think we used a backup recorder. I had a DAT, I think what we just went to every once in a while. But for the most part, we ran from the microphone into the mixer and then mixer into the camera. So we were running miles of cable through that place to get into the camera, which I don't think, I can't even remember the camera we used. Courtney, do you have even a clue?
I don't
the Betamax.
Was it Betamax?
No, not the Beta Cam, the digital Beta Cam.
Yeah, so we ran into that. So I'm not sure something could have happened there where it might have been a camera mic. I don't know. I don't know the parts you're talking about, but we always tried to get in as tight as we could with the boom. We mainly boomed it. We boomed most of the scenes. I think every once in a while.
So the problem is not with the voices. You boomed everything perfectly, just like Paul says. The voices are very crisp. I'm talking about the sound mixing after that, the mixing of the dialogue with the music. Was it you? Because I need to find who's in charge of this particular aspect of the game.
I am strictly production. I do not do post-production.
Okay.
Every once in a while,
then you're off the hook.
But that was not me at the time. I barely knew how to mix at the time. So getting the on-set dialogue is most important. And the sound mixer, big sound mixer, Doug Turtlow in Seattle, gave me advice once, and I was asking about gear. What should I do? And he's like, "You're only as good as your microphone. So if you're going to spend money on anything to start out, spend money on a microphone, because a quality microphone."
Here, take a look at your boom mic.
Hey,
there it is at the top right there. This is you.
There it is.
Not bad.
So
You're doing good work there. Yeah.
Woo! Swinging it. I'm swinging back and forth.
and here's the text.
There's some text on the wall right there. What else
Yeah.
you got?
You really went to town.
We all did, not just me. It was a whole. Courtney, you remember all this?
Now, this is funny because Mickey sent me this, right? I don't remember being in this scene, which is I don't remember, being Mr. Buttmeat Man or whatever.
You're Buttmeat. That's right. I totally forgot.
But now that I think about the Buttmeat thing, I think it was a play on the.
Hey, there you are, right there. Is that you, Courtney?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's me down in the corner.
Courtney's there.
I don't even remember that. I don't even remember.
Sometimes
But what I do kind of remember is, that's funny.
Well, hey, so Daniel, you mentioned the person. Is that the word person? But it really is this person, and then there's something underneath it.
Oh.
What is this person is?
This person. This
Something
person is
and then we don't know what the answer to that is.
We probably never will.
No, we'll never know. Oh, that's funny.
When I started playing this scene, I didn't realize that Courtney was in it. But after his story with the butt meat and its source,
yeah, Ted's in it. Courtney's in it. I think there's a couple other people.
Tony Hoskins and I would always, talk about. Like Bubba Gump, that Bubba from Forrest Gump, and shrimp stew, salad, all that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm sure it came from, but I don't remember why we chose butt meat.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what you said. I knew it was something along the lines of that Bubba Gump thing, but I couldn't remember what you exactly said.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That's hilarious.
Well, I don't want to take up too much more of you guys' time. So I would just before though, I do want to hear, you're both so prolific. I've been looking up a little bit, and Courtney, I know that you run a program now out of Bainbridge, right? Where you're working with folks to sort of be able to create their own work on the fly. Is that right? Barn? Can you tell me a little bit about that and what else what projects? I didn't know about the gaming company. I want to hear more about that as well.
Yeah. I mean, so I've been on I switched from the creative side to the creative side 2001, actually, right. I was working as a key grip on Aaliyah's music video where she died in the plane crash, and then a couple weeks later 9/11 happened, and so that kind of. I was just like, oh, okay, well, I should probably start doing the creative stuff before the world blows itself up. And so I switched over to being a writer, producer, director, and all of that. And I've produced and directed, some feature films, some TV stuff, and being here on Barn. On Bainbridge, there's this place that's called the Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network, and the acronym is BARN, and it's like 10 different studios. There's like a full commercial kitchen. There's a huge wood shop, jewelry, which my wife is a part of the jewelry division there, studio, and she also runs the youth programs, but it's all a volunteer place, and I kind of took over as the media lead, and I teach classes, about mobile filmmaking, because I'm a big proponent of mobile filmmaking because it's so accessible, and it gives people a reason to not have an excuse not to do something. Mickey and I went out and we did a feature film, just he and I, and we took well, we call them kids, but we took these kids out in the they were 20 somethings, but we took them out into the woods and killed them and made a horror movie out of it, and but we did it as I mean, oh wait, I said it the wrong way. No, no, but we
made a horror movie.
We made a horror movie using mobile, but it's and it was fun. It was a good experiment at the time, but that's part of my thing. I still produce and I still direct and I do stuff on other mediums, but I really like the accessibility of mobile, and I know several people who do and we like it. So but yeah, so that's kind of my focus, and volunteering at Barn is great for me because I get people of all ages. I get people from 10, all the way up to 80 coming into some of my classes, trying to learn how to shoot and edit and all that. Yeah.
And you have a podcast too. That's where we found you. Is this a regular thing, or how's that go?
It was definitely more so during the pandemic. And it was called Made on. Well, I did two. There was a gentleman that where you saw Mickey and I. It was a podcast called the Mobile Creator Podcast, and then and the co-host is Glenn Mulcahy he lives in Ireland, so we co-hosted that, and then I did another one solo, which was the Made on Mobile TV. So, and that was a YouTube one, and that it was fun, and it was just trying to Paul, during the pandemic, you have to do something with your time, and it was about being creative and trying to figure out how to keep the wheels moving instead of stopping and standing still or going backwards.
And I think. Yeah, and connecting with people, with the world has allowed us to become so niche, and that to realize that there are so many other people that share a very small little thing that you love, and I think back in the day, a lot of times you'd feel like you're pretty lonely with your passions, and nowadays it's just surprising how many people share this. Like the fact that there's a Conversations with Curtis YouTube channel. We have 6,000 subscribers. Just that's mind blowing to me, right? So the fact that there are people that like to talk about this stuff, and to connect with you guys again, and to be able to. It's funny because, as you both know, you're just going from gig to gig. That's what we do. We're just always moving forward. It doesn't help much to look back because you're too busy trying to get the next job. But then when you look at something like this that we all sort of cut our teeth on, and you forget that it had a life without us. It went on and did its own thing, and it actually affected people in a very positive way, which surprised me because I thought, we're doing like a horror genre, bondage. How is this going to be in any way a positive, thing? But the testimonials we got, and Daniel's a wonderful example of how it made such a positive impact on them. You just never know where your work is going to land, and it's pretty. And
it's crazy
look back
to
and talk to
see
you guys about it.
All these years later, how popular it still is. Like I was, saying, reading the gaming, blogs and watching different vlogs, and it always comes up in conversations. And that to me, like I hadn't. That was the first thing that I had been a part of that had a life, that such a long life to it. I've worked on other things, like some Star Wars and stuff, and obviously that has a major life. But this was the first thing that I had ever worked on that had such a huge life and such an impact on people.
Yeah. And so, Mickey, was it just? My guess is, how long did you stay in Seattle? And then through work, did you end up moving to a bigger market, or were you just letting the jobs kind of take you where you needed to go?
Actually, I stayed in Seattle pretty much to 2000. To once 9/11 happened, everything kind of stopped. but I was doing feature work, then started getting into corporate. But Phantasmagoria kind of launched me into mixing because I was a boom op and booming and sometimes mixing or doing this, but I had to step up in Phantasmagoria too to become the mixer, and so that kind of launched me into it. And so I never looked back from that. So I was always thankful for that. That's kind of my stepping point into the mixing world. And and so it was awesome. I mean, yeah, like I talked about, we were a family, and I've still remained friends with everybody on that. Mostly everybody that we stayed in touch with. And Courtney and I, yeah, we've done a lot of work. And I did work around Seattle, did a lot of feature films. I was really focusing on feature films. And then once the market kind of went down on our work, being independent contractors, production kind of slowed to a halt after that. And then my wife was an independent contractor. She's in the fashion world, and that slowed way down. And then it's like, oh, things are not happening right now. So then she got a job offer actually to move to San Diego. So off we went to San Diego because I figured, getting closer to LA, maybe LA is where I need to be, because I was traveling down to LA to work with the guys, and with Alex and Brian and all those guys were shooting stuff down there. So we moved to San Diego. I was commuting to LA back and forth at the time, and like, oh my God. And then my wife just started getting jobs closer, one in Long Beach, and then finally went to one that got us to LA was she worked for GC Couture. But so that got us into LA, and then from there it just boom, it blew up, and I started working constantly on everything. And then I always had friends.
Boom.
Yeah. Boom. I see what you did there. So it did move me to a bigger market, and then into LA, and then working. And then it got to the point where my name started getting out there a lot in Austin. And it got to the point where I started traveling. And then which led me to the job offer from a friend of mine. I was working on Top Chef Masters, I think at the time, the first season. And a friend of mine was in there, and we talked about it. We'd worked on Biggest Loser the first season. And that just he goes, hey, I'm working on the show. It's called Amazing Race. You should check it out, but you got to run. It's a lot of running. I'm like, I've heard about it. I heard it's pretty brutal. So that kind of led me to that. And I interviewed, and they threw me on the race after they interviewed me. And then just kind of from there. And so then at that point in time, once you get to a certain level like that, I could be based anywhere. So I can get calls, and, I was known as a traveling kind of extreme sound mixer, working on a lot of crazy stuff. And so we're back to the Northwest, and then now we're back in, I'm going back and forth between Seattle and now San Francisco. So I'm all over the place, but I could be based pretty much anywhere. And
so you travel all over, you just had some, that's probably a whole different podcast episode of just hearing your stories of being on the Amazing Race episodes. Yeah. Between
Amazing Race, American Ninja Warrior, Top Chef, stuff like that. I don't call myself a reality mixer, but I tend to do more stuff, but I do more the hometown follow, some more the documentary type things with that stuff. Unless it's the race, then I'm just following those crazy people around.
And that's, you are out there when they're doing it. So you're not, this isn't stuff that you're just doing.
If we don't record it, it doesn't happen, type of thing, especially that show. But so I tend to push myself. I'm training right now. I'm about to head out in June for the next season 36. Like, wow. But it's like, I don't know. I keep getting older, and they keep getting younger. I don't know. It's like the contestants keep getting younger and fitter. We had one season where they had Olympians on. Like, oh my God. Like pro athletes, Olympians. Like, I remember one season we were in, I can't remember where we were, in Nice, and they had to go south, and we were on this hillside of this town, and it was all stairs. It was just uphill. And I was with a professional Olympian bobsledder, and his girlfriend was a speed skater. And these guys would just take these strides. I'd be taking 5-6 steps each stride to get into it. But yeah, that is a different podcast. But
so your job is to follow them.
I run with
wherever
them.
They go, however fast, however slow, whatever place they get into, you're with them.
Whatever it takes. That's our motto on the race. Whatever it takes to get sound.
Holy, that's you should have your own podcast.
Without your footsteps getting into the mix.
No, because most of them are radio mic'd. So yeah, there's a little bit of sound off that, but my boom is constantly being recorded. We have recorders, recording the camera, myself, body recorder. We do everything on this show. So. But
so they can hear you hyperventilating?
Oh, yeah, of course. I hear heartbeats when they stop. You can hear everybody's heartbeats.
Oh my gosh!
But I would love to do more video game stuff. Now is so advanced. Like the sounds, they have the Academy Award-winning sound mixers that are doing these things, like the Call of Duty, first-person shooters. And if you ever read about any of these guys that do this, it's insane. I didn't even know you could mic a helicopter. Like these guys are talking about the mics they use on the inside and outside of the helicopter as it's powering up and doing stuff. It's incredible what these guys do. But I would love to be more. I like the video game, like what we did with Phantas or like with X-Files. I like that genre stuff.
Absolutely.
It was so memorable.
Well, it's funny, we have in the perfect world scenario that's out there, I ended up reaching out to the actress who was the leading, who played the protagonist in the first game. Her name is Victoria Hemmingson Morcell. She played Adrian in the first game. And so after I kind of did the little oral history project, which continues to expand. So I definitely want you guys, if you can, Mickey and Courtney, I might reach out to you and try to get some names of some of these, some of our other crew members and see if we can continue at the end of the day, I might have the most comprehensive oral history of one video game ever created.
Let's do it.
In the history of the world. But she's amazing. And her character survived and my character survived. And so there's been a lot of sort of backstage talk about like, wouldn't it be fun to put, to have a Phantasmagoria 3 where these two characters somehow converge, 30 years later and go on another kind of,
Let's do it. I'm there.
All right. So you guys are both, all right. You guys are in?
Absolutely. 100%.
Let's start writing right now. Let's do it. Let's do it.
The biggest issue is
you don't even have to ask anymore. We're there. Let's do it.
No, I love it. Yeah. That's been, there's some, it's just a little bit of, we have to decide whether, right now all the rights are owned by Activision, but Microsoft is acquiring Activision. The understanding is Microsoft might be a little bit more open to collaboration and to things like that. Activision they don't really traditionally have never been very interested in these kinds of games or anything. There's no real money in it. So Roberta Williams and Ken Williams, who ran the company, they sold that off. So they don't even have the rights to their own stuff, but I know that they'll get back in the game. So there's a lot of potential copyright issues. There could just be like do you create a game, a fan version of a game that everybody knows? We just change the names and we just have a new story. I mean, it would be great if it could
spiritual successor,
spiritual successor, right? So there's all kinds of options, but we're just dipping our toes a little bit and seeing if that's something that would have
fun,
gaining traction,
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, we should definitely talk about it. So I'm
absolutely
down to do it. So.
Okay, cool. Well, Courtney
but
and
you'll
Mickey,
still be butt meat man.
No,
but I'm still
butt meat man survived. I heard.
I'll reprise my role, but just for you guys. Yeah, that's it.
And we'll have to track down another Addams Family pinball machine so we can have some fun in the meantime. Yeah. Well, hey guys, it's a pleasure seeing you both again after all this time. Congratulations on all your successes. I'm glad your friendship has thrived over the years. That's just another wonderful success story out of what we all did together a long time ago.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for having us. This has been amazing.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you reached out.
Yeah, this has been.
Well, thanks to Daniel for finding you guys. Yeah. And I'll be in touch. And I'll be in touch. I'd love to chat more and find out, see if we can get some more folks to, recall their memories of the game.
Absolutely. Awesome. Guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Good luck, guys. Yep. You take it easy. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye. So there you go. Daniel's in my interview with Mickey McMullen and Courtney Jones. Wow. What a couple of cool guys. What a great, it was so cool to just chat with them again. And hear their stories. Fascinating to know that Courtney actually moved to the Pacific Northwest because he fell in love with this area when he moved up here from LA to do that shoot. I would love to hang out with them both more, and I hope that happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider supporting us on Patreon or Ko-fi and helping us continue this podcast series and our interviews, as well as our regular live streams of playing some of these classic older games. But until then, thanks for everything, and we will see you on our next edition of Conversations with Curtis.